Live, welcome everybody into the week 3 already preview of the National Football League, coming to you from the best, most accurate sports show that has the documents. We are here to preview every single game. Yeah, that's right. We don't skip out on the games that the Panthers play. We don't skip out on some of the lower teams like the Giants and previewing their games. We talk about every single team on the show, where your mainstream shows are just talking about the Cowboys and Chiefs every single segment. So we're going to preview all of those. And we also want to talk about the Bryce Young draft because he's already benched. What happened with that draft, especially him being the number one quarterback? Time to take a look at some of those draft picks, where they went wrong. Also, it is a holiday, which we want to discuss, and there's more news to talk about, as always. But welcome into the Brickyard Live Show, the best, most accurate live sports show on the internet. How are you doing today, Brick Jameson? I am fired up.
I'm doing great. We got the Bryce Young draft that we'll briefly go over later in the show. We'll make all of our selections for week 3 of the NFL. Things are starting to fall in place. We'll figure out who's the pretenders and who are not. Burger Day. I celebrated Burger Day earlier today. We had Woj retiring, which we'll talk about later as well. But this is a football podcast, and Aaron Hernandez's mini series is premiering tonight. You had some opinions about this off air. Aaron Hernandez, TV show. What are your expectations for it?
Yeah, so I was stuck in a hotel this weekend because I was up in Michigan for my friend's wedding. And as you know, when you're stuck in hotels, you're confined to watching cable. So basically, every single ad break, I kept seeing this ad for this Aaron Hernandez show. And I think it's been long enough where we can look back on Aaron Hernandez and be like, okay, maybe we can revisit his life. But the way this show looks, it just looks like a cheesy NBC CBS show. When you have that show, everyone knows these shows when you watch afternoon CBS, where you're like, I'll bet you $5 that that show is going to be canceled after season one. And this show kind of just looks a little too soap opera-y. And I feel like for a story like Aaron Hernandez, who was such a dominant player on the field, was with that Florida team, and it's such an interesting story that I feel like if it's just gonna kind of be a cheesy, almost poorly written show that doesn't have like the production value with the story and the writing to back it up, I'm a little bit nervous that this could come off the wrong way, especially with it being produced by FX, which they've done some pretty good shows, but I'd rather see like a HBO Max or a Netflix handle something like this, who would definitely make it like a phenom, like similar to like the Tiger King or the People versus OJ Simpson when that came out. Like that was a really big show on Netflix when they did it. And this one kind of just looks like a throwaway, where I feel like the Aaron Hernandez story is much more interesting than this show looks.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see when it premieres, but it does seem more like a drama, and I don't think that they should be profiting off of the loss of like Aaron Hernandez's life. It's a story that should be told, but if it's just going to be essentially 99% fiction and 1% truth, then they're basically just profiting off of a person who had some serious issues and died, killed himself, but also killed other people as well. Like, I don't think they should, if they're going to be telling his story, they should be telling him about some of his, more about the history of him and what caused him to break bad rather than just having some random drama show that's from fucking FX, you know?
Yeah, I know he's too old probably now to play him, but if we could see someone like John Bernthal play Aaron Hernandez, who like played the
That'd be sick.
Punisher before, and like you could make this into a Oscar quality probably movie, but the show just kind of looks like a cheesy CSI show where it just doesn't have the value that the story deserves. Where Aaron Hernandez was with him and Gronk, like you could argue he was better than Gronk, and then the you could have like an entire season dedicated to high school and dedicated to him being at the Florida Gators as well.
Yeah, you could. You could make it a whole thing, but instead, I think they're just profiting off of his name, and I'm not really a fan of it. It's unfortunate because like Aaron Hernandez, it's a shame what happened to him because he would have been one of the best tight ends of all time had he
Oh,
not
for sure.
done what he did.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's kind of similar to like Linkin Park replacing Chester Bennington instead of just making a new band. It seems like I don't know. I get it's a band and you want to keep the name on it, but I don't think you need to have a new lead singer. Maybe you could just like keep the same band members and change the name with a different front person or woman.
Yeah, I think that like what Queen did was the right thing, where they had Queen with Adam Lambert. Like that person is not like I get they're gonna continue making new music, but and I actually kind of like the new singer, which is unpopular amongst the Linkin Park fan base, but um, again, it's kind of that same thing where this person died, and like I get that they want to keep playing music, but at the same time, like it's not Linkin Park if it's not Chester Bennington there. You know, it's like you got to make it Linkin Park with whoever the singer's name is.
Yeah, and it's not the NBA without a Woj bomb either. I mean, Woj
True.
bomb, and it. The worst part about the news for this was Adam Scheffner reporting it, who is known to confront people who drop information that they found credibly through their own journalism. If they report that before him, he throws a temper tantrum behind the scenes and goes to his bosses and cries about it. And now he's the one who's dropping the news that Woj is retired and he's going to be a GM now of a college team, or is it high school?
Yeah, so it's his alma mater that he went to college at. He's going to be the general manager or something like that, or athletic director. I'll get the exact information. Um, but he's retiring from the space. He's been doing this since the '90s, and he's going to be the GM of his alma mater, which I think is kind of cool for him. Definitely did not expect this. Came out of fucking nowhere um, to do that, but good for if that's what he wants to do. This dude's in his 50s. Credit to him. He's like one of the most iconic um, news breakers in sports history. But yeah, he leaves, becomes the GM of his alma mater to like rebuild that basketball team. Kind of interesting. Just kind of came out of left field. It was a Woj, like the one final Woj bomb, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that'd be cool. Like, I would want to go play for Woj, especially if you're someone who is aspiring to be a sports journalist or someone who's aspiring to be on TV or have a career outside of basketball. Maybe you're a basketball player who knows you're not going to make it to the NBA, but you think you'd be able to make it in like podcasting or sports creating. I think having someone like Woj there that you could have like a coffee chat with or a networking meeting would be pretty cool. And that would also drive people to go to that school, I would assume.
Oh, I think it will for sure. I think it's going to drive it up because I think even just him becoming the GM is going to bring recognition. Because I'd never heard of this school before he became the GM there, so should start some buzz for them
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, I
Other news as
remember
well, though. Oh yeah, what's up?
I remember like during the Super Bowl, I think it was like Patriots Rams. LeBron was like, "Yeah, just waiting for a Woj bomb right now." But hopefully, he enjoys being at school. But else do we have in other news?
So we have Arch Manning is going to be taking over for Quinn Ewers, who is hurt. Arch Manning stepped in for him last game, was 6 for 7, had a 70-yard run where he ran faster than Tyreek Hill. Arch Manning, it's officially his time in Texas, just in time for Mr. Marcus, who just arrived in Austin about 2 months ago. Arch Manning starting for Texas this week. That's massive. We have another Manning. Another era of Mannings is upon us. And so far, he
Yeah,
looks really good, just in his short briefing.
yeah, I know it's crazy. College football here is insane, and having Arch Manning there, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Quinn Ewers," and those are like diehard fans, but like also having Arch Manning here, it's like I was kind of waiting for a game to go to a game for him to start, but probably go see him play Florida State. But the fact that he can run as fast as Tyreek Hill out of the pocket as a quarterback, because he's the son of the athletic Manning brother, who was originally going to be a wide receiver until his career got derailed with health complications. But the father Manning, Archie Manning, who played for the Saints, was one of the early mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. So now we're going to get a mobile quarterback in the NFL who was patient enough to not transfer before he was ready to play, waited his turn. Now he's going to step up, and now he has Peyton and Eli as his mentors to teach him how to play quarterback. I mean, some team is going to be very unlucky when they get the number one pick and he tells them he doesn't want to go there. Panthers.
It's gonna happen to the Panthers because let's see, he's a sophomore now. He got redshirted his first year, so he can go as early as 2 years from now, but as late as three if he decides to stay. So we're looking at like 2027 that he could be in the league potentially.
Yeah.
And the Panthers are still going to suck. I mean, we're going to talk about the draft, the Bryce Young draft that was a complete nightmare for him. And they're not going to be good for a decade. They're terrible until
You
David Tepper sells the team, but
you know what's
he's
going to happen
absolutely going
though?
to strong arm. What?
So the Panthers are gonna be like bad, but not bad enough to get the number one pick until the year Arch Manning comes out, and then he's just gonna be like, no, no, I don't want to go to the Panthers. Why?
And I
Why
don't
would I
blame
go
him.
there? You guys aren't even good enough to tank for the number one pick.
Yeah. I think he's going to end up in New York. I think he's going to be a Giant, most likely. Or maybe Denver. I feel like he's going to go to one of those Manning teams. Like I think Denver could probably take him if when Bo Nix doesn't pan out
Yeah, when Bo
potentially.
Nix doesn't pan out. Yeah, Denver would be interesting. Tennessee would be cool, actually, to see Nashville have a Manning there would be absolutely electric. If Will Levis kind of doesn't work out here and can't get rid of his turnover bug, they're like, all right, enough. We're tanking for Arch Manning. I think that would be a perfect storm as well.
Yeah, I mean initially Peyton Manning was going to go to Tennessee before going to Denver, so that's another destination that they're interested in. So that'd
Yeah,
be cool.
Nashville's a
We're
cool
not too
spot.
far. We're not too far away from our an Arch Manning NFL, which will be exciting to see. And if he can run, I mean, he ran a 20.7 miles per hour run on that touchdown, which is faster than what Tyreek's been recorded at this year. That's absurd. We have a Tyreek Hill speed quarterback. That's a Manning.
Yeah,
You
he's
realize
going
how
to be like
insane that is?
CMC at quarterback, basically.
That's ungodly. You know how Brady had like a 10-year gap between winning Super Bowls? I feel like it's when the Mannings come in and then all these other players that are already in the league. I feel like that's when we're going to see like a Mahomes championship um, deficit or like a span of time he doesn't win a title.
Yeah, it's like
Like maybe like
Stroud this year, Caleb Williams coming into the league, and then we'll get like more quarterbacks other than them coming in. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
yeah. And then other news as well. This is small news, but National Burger Day. I know you mentioned going to Culver's earlier today. I went to this place called Burger Theory, which was actually fire. And I went to In and Out a couple days ago. But Burger Day, do you celebrate Burger Day?
Yeah, I did celebrate Burger Day. Someone at lunch was like, "Yeah, it is National Burger Day because someone got it from like the lunch cafeteria." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll check Uber Eats when I get home." And it was buy one get one free butter burgers from Culver's, which is probably my favorite fast food burger. If I'm gonna go that route, so had like four patties to celebrate Burger Day and get fired up for the show. So that was really solid. Is Burger Theory like a fast food place, or is it a little bit more of a craft burger situation?
It's more of a craft burger spot, but I could walk there. And it was like a 5-minute walk. And so that was enough for me. It was like right down the street, like literally just like a light, like maybe like a light away. So it was dope. Did it on the clock too. So I got paid to go to Burger Theory. So
Oh,
I'm just
really?
in like, I'm in like, you worked at Fidelity as well. Like it's workplace Fidelity essentials. So they're teaching me how to clock in to work and open my computer and press start. I'm like, yeah, I've been here for 4 years. I'm good. I don't need to do that. But thank you. So that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, the crazy thing about working for a corporation is just the amount of downtime that they give you. Like there was another group that had like a huddle, but we were in the same room as them, so we couldn't do anything until they finished. So we just sat around for an hour and 40 minutes with nothing to do, and an hour at the end with also nothing to do. They're like, "Yeah, check emails." Like,
Okay.
okay. Like corporations just give you so much free downtime. It's like, okay, yeah, I get like the hashtag like Twitter life and why Elon got rid of so many employees at Twitter. When you experience it, you're like, oh, okay. I get why he got rid of so many people.
Yeah. And I understand why the Panthers are getting rid of Bryce Young, which is a good pivot into the 2023 draft. We saw earlier this week, we talked about it on the show this past episode, but Bryce Young has been benched, and Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, will take over for him after two abysmal games, 18 starts, 2 and 16. Did not play good football. The team around him was not very good, but Bryce Young is officially pretty much his time in Carolina is over. This year, he um, can scrummage up a total of 245 yards over 2 games. Bryce Young,
Jesus.
what a mess this has been. Poor guy.
Yeah. What a mess Bryce Young is. I looked at Bryce Young and I was like, wow, what a mess. And I don't know. I think with the Panthers, though, it is a situation where we have seen now two quarterbacks go to Carolina, leave, and look a lot better. It looked like Carolina was trying to wreck careers where you had Baker Mayfield leave and Sam Darnold, who were both pushed out of their respective situations before. And then Baker Mayfield came out and said, hey, I was in a similar situation as Bryce Young, and I'm now in a much better fit for me and playing better. And I think Bryce Young deserves another chance because you have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You have a team that has an owner that has fired his coach every single year that he's been there. Year two, he's already on coach two, which is never easy as well. And
3.
then, oh, yeah, coach three. Yeah. And then you're also your number one receiver is Adam Thielen, who was never a number one receiver. He was always at his best. He was the best number two receiver in the league, and his best tight end was Hayden Hurst. That was his number two receiver, and then the backfield is the Chuba Hubbard missile crisis, as Chris Berman would say. I'm like, I think if I'm Miami, I give him a shot because Tua is going to be on IR. And I think if I'm a team like Green Bay or a team like San Francisco who wants a really good backup who I can groom with good coaching and maybe not pay someone like Brock Purdy or Tua again, I would take a chance. And I think I've seen, I don't know, he's been bad, but it's like he's a small quarterback without an O line. I think a lot of people would look bad in that situation.
Yeah, I think that even the best of the best would struggle there. The thing with Bryce Young that I've noticed just watching him, I don't think he's ever going to be like a pro bowler or like all-star level player. So in that case, he'll be considered a bust, especially with CJ Stroud behind him. But again, like if you just get him an offensive line, this dude last year had almost the most sacks in NFL history. He's been sacked more times in the past 2 years than any other quarterback. He has had terrible weapons, terrible offensive line. His defense on the other side has also not been really good for him, and the defense looks worse this year. My thing that I don't understand about them benching him is you invested all this money this past offseason. You traded for Deontay Johnson, which was your big move. You signed Miles Sanders in the offseason last year, Adam Thielen, all these players, and then you give it 2 games before you call it quits for him. I understand he has not looked very good, and part of this is on Bryce Young, but I don't think anybody would have succeeded in this situation. This situation's a nightmare. You hire Frank Reich, he's a mess. He gets fired. They have an interim head coach. He comes in, still terrible, and then they hire Dave Canales, and Dave Canales, um, he's the first 2 games they've been annihilated, so maybe he's not good either.
Yeah.
It's just horrible situation for him. I feel bad for him.
Dave Canales also had like what the 20th ranked offense in the NFL last year, and you're like, yeah, him. He's the guy. He's the one who's gonna change our life. And he's also like behind a defensive head coach in Todd Bowles, so he's doing most of the game plan as the offensive coordinator there. And the Bucks offense, frankly, without him, looks better this year. And then also, can we have the context that the Panthers played the Saints the first week, who had blown them out before, and then the Saints just blew out the Cowboys, and then the Chargers just held Gardner Minshew and the Raiders to 10 points in week 1, and then the Raiders went out there and beat the Ravens and scored 10 points and came back from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Like, can we have some context that they did play two good teams here, and Jim Harbaugh's specialty is defense?
Yeah. And honestly, these two teams are probably going to make the playoffs ultimately. So you're facing two teams that are going to be competitive. I just don't think you should have shortened the leash on him because he's going to, I mean, Jamarcus Russell had 25 starts before they called it quits for him. Zach Wilson, I think, had like 20 starts as well. Like Bryce Young deserved like, at least a month or two before they decided to. If they were 0-10 and they were terrible and he also was playing terrible, then okay, you don't want to go 0-17. That's fine. But you have
Yeah.
15 more games before you have to worry about being winless. And I do think they would have been winless. I still think they might go winless anyways, even with Andy Dalton. But I don't think he deserved it. I think this was a little premature with
Yeah.
everything.
And Dan Orlovsky was allowed to lose not one game, not two games, not three, but every single game. I know he's everywhere now. I know he's all over TV and has commercials where he wants to draft Geico agents to sell him insurance. But the fact is, if that guy is allowed to lose every single game, I mean, you can at least let Bryce Young lose 7 in a row, right? Like, I feel like 7, like, okay, if you lose, like, 2 in a row, that happens. Joe Burrow just lost 2 games in a row, but if you lose 7 in a row, okay. And then also, what's the point of starting Andy Dalton if you're gonna win 4 games and not get a top 5 pick potentially?
Yeah, I think this ultimately was a Dave Canales decision because they didn't tell David Tepper that this was happening. So this was just kind of like a Dave Canales saw this team. He's like, this is my only shot being head coach, and I'm probably going to get fired anyways. I need to save my career. This was a Dave Canales move because he saw, holy shit, this team is actually pathetic. This team is terrible. We just got crushed by these two teams pretty embarrassingly.
Yeah.
If I want to have a career after this, I need to win a few games.
Everyone was warned not to go there too. If you're coaching, it was career suicide is what Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick were told.
It is. It is career suicide.
They're told, wait for a disappointing season for the Cowboys and the Bills. Those will be much better jobs for both of you, and you could both get those jobs next year.
Yeah. Nope. Couldn't do it. And here they are now. But I think it's interesting. I think we should go through the 2023 draft. I'll go through the first round and then notable players in the later rounds as well.
Yeah.
But starting with the Bryce Young trade, let's add some context. What the Bears received for trading away the first overall pick was they received DJ Moore. They got the ninth overall pick, which turned out to be Darnell Wright, which is their offensive lineman. Um, so far he's been okay, kind of mid. Tyreek Stevenson, who's a hit, he's been good so far. Caleb Williams, which everyone's starting to already call him a bust, which I think is completely ridiculous, but neither here nor there with that. And then they still have a second round pick this upcoming year along with it. So they
No
got Darnell Wright,
way.
DJ Moore, they got Tyreek Stevenson, Caleb Williams, and now they still have a second round pick this upcoming year to complete this absolute horrific trade for the Panthers.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bryce Young, first overall pick, complete disaster. Second overall pick, CJ Stroud. I think we know who picked the right quarterback.
What would CJ Stroud have done though, hypothetically, if he went to the Panthers? Like, maybe the Panthers aren't this bad, but like, is he changing anything? Is like, does CJ Stroud also, are people calling him a bust if he goes to Carolina? Was it because of D'Amico Ryans and the Texans having a good roster? Or was it like, if he goes to the Panthers, can he actually change one of the worst franchises in the NFL?
I think they would have been better. I think he would have shown more flashes, but I still think they would have been one of the worst teams. They probably would have been like 5-12 compared to 2-15. Like they still would have sucked, but I think CJ Stroud's a top 5 quarterback in the league, in my opinion. I think he would have been able to make them decent, but not great. Still a bad team. He would have been throwing to Adam Thielen at the end of the day. Like he still wouldn't have been good, but he still would have been better than Bryce Young.
It's
That's
still
my
a
take.
bad division though. So if you want to think about like that division last year, like maybe he can beat the Falcons or like the Bucks and the Saints a couple times. Maybe. Then you have a few wins in there.
Yeah, I think he would have been like 5 or 6 wins. The third pick, the Texans doubled down and they got Will Anderson, and he was a monster, is a monster. He had one of the best seasons as a rookie for edge rushers, had 8.5 sacks, had one of the best pressure rates, immediately became one of the best edge rushers in the league. Like immediately.
Yeah. That was incredible. We were there for when the Texans made that deal. I was like, oh my God, they took the best quarterback and the best rusher in the draft.
Yeah. And then interestingly enough, they traded their pick with the Cardinals, which everyone was like, oh, their first round pick, wah, wah, wah. That pick ended up becoming um I have to look at I want to see how that trade broke down because ultimately it got traded a few times, but it turned out to be ended up working out for them in the long run, obviously. And then Anthony Richardson, number 4. I know I've seen flashes with Anthony Richardson, and I know that he has the talent to be really good. Still think it's too early to tell. He's been hurt. He's been erratic a little bit. I think he's got the talent to be the best player in this draft, but we still need more time with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a Josh Allen level project where Josh Allen wasn't really good until year 3 and he was not great his first 2 years and he still has his moments and I think that will be the case with Anthony Richardson, but we'll look at him at times and be like, "Okay, you have the potential to be the best player in the NFL at times. You just need to learn how to play quarterback now instead of being the best athlete on the field." And thrower because he has a cannon of an arm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think eventually he will be quite good. Ultimately, looking back at the Will Anderson trade, that trade that went down, ultimately, that first overall pick ended up turning into Jameer Gibbs for the Lions. So, turned out
Oh,
pretty good for the Lions.
yeah, that
Somehow,
was a
some
good pick.
way, it ended up in Jameer Gibbs' hands. So, that's cool. Um, Devon Witherspoon, beast, absolute beast at number 5. We knew that was going to
Yeah,
happen
it's a corner heavy draft too.
for sure. Um, Cardinals drafted Paris Johnson. He's been effective for him. He's been a good offensive lineman. Um, Number 7, Tyree Wilson. Bust. He's been terrible so far. He's done nothing. 16 tackles, 3.5 sacks. Dog. What are
Yeah,
you doing?
the Raiders called. They want their draft pick back.
Yeah. Bijan, monster. Bijan Robinson's a beast.
He
Uh,
was incredible just the other night on Monday Night Football.
he was. Um, Jalen Carter. He was good for the first half of his first year. Um, kind of disappeared in the second half. Eagles are a weird team. I think Jalen Carter is going to be good and will continue to get better, but I haven't seen him. Where'd he go? He hasn't been good the last like half of his career so far.
Yeah, he saw D Swift. He's like, you can play half the season and still get paid. Sweet.
Yeah. Darnell Wright, we just talked about him with the Panthers trade. He's been okay. He's a fine offensive lineman. Offensive line for the Bears isn't great so far, so remains to be seen. Same goes with the Titans. Peter Skoronsky, offensive lineman, remains to be seen how those guys pan out. Jameer Gibbs is a hit though, 100%. Really boasted up them. They moved on from D Swift. They got Jameer Gibbs. People were saying they shouldn't have gone after a running back and they should have addressed their defense. Ultimately, that doesn't matter when it comes down to it for the
Yeah, they
Lions.
addressed it this year too. Now they're a complete team. We hope.
I hope. Luke Van Ness, he's pretty solid. He's okay for the Packers. Um, yeah, he's okay. Broderick Jones, offensive lineman for the Steelers. Will McDonald, he's been good for the Jets. Emmanuel Forbes for the Commanders remains to be seen. Christian Gonzalez looks like he's a hit for the Patriots. Who would have thought the Patriots good at drafting defensive players?
Stud.
Jack Campbell, one of the top rookie linebackers, drafted 58 tackles last year, was one of their bright spots on their defense last year. Jack Campbell was a big hit for the Lions. Also a pick that people didn't like. Number 19, Tampa picked Kalijah Cansey.
What?
I don't know if he
He
passes.
can't see?
Kalijah Cansey, yeah.
He can't see what?
So someone get this man some bifocals ASAP.
Literally, he fails the name test. Sorry, you're out of here.
Bomb. Then we have the string of 4 receivers in a row, starting with Jackson Smith and the Jigba.
He's been
What do
balling.
you think of
He
him?
got 95 yards on Sunday. Like, should he have been the first one taken? Probably not. I don't think so. He's the number 2 to DK Metcalf, but it's yet to be seen this year. He's come out of the gate strong though.
Yeah. Quentin Johnson for the Chargers. Last
He got
year,
a touchdown this week.
no, this he played great last week. So I mean, maybe Jim Harbaugh can fix him. If we're basing it just on last season, he's a bust. But if Jim Harbaugh can save him, then that'll be good for the Chargers. I think that they're usually good with drafting receivers, but he was terrible last year. Zay Flowers, he was good for them last year.
The best receiver in the draft. Yeah, okay. So
In the string
Seattle
so
took
far.
him. Imagine if the Chargers got Zay Flowers. Oh, Justin
Unreal.
Herbert could have had he would have had him, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen.
That'll be nice. And then ending the wide receiver quadruplet was Jordan Addison. Second player. He stepped up a lot when Justin Jefferson went down. Jordan Addison has been a baller since joining the league.
Yeah, I would say he was the number 2 out of that receiver group there too. I would take Zay
I agree.
Flowers and then Jordan Addison next. Especially with the situation he was in last year, he was playing with some absolute scrubs at quarterback. No disrespect to Josh Dobbs, but he
Yeah,
looked rough out there at some points of last season, buddy.
he did. We do love Josh Dobbs, but you're right. Giants, Deontay Banks, D-back. He actually played pretty well for them. That Giants defense, they've hit on a lot of their picks the last couple of years. So I would actually say Deontay Banks has been good. 25th overall, Dalton Kincaid. He's a hit for them. He's a beast.
Yeah, slow start this year, but he's definitely going to be that go-to guy for Josh Allen at the end of the year.
Yep. And then to end out the first round, a lot of to be seen or just not very good players. Mazzie Smith did nothing last year at all for the Cowboys. Whiff. Anton Harrison for the Jags. Where in the world is this man? I'm looking at his game logs. He hasn't played at all. In fact, this year, it says he's played 100% of the snaps. Where is bro? I could not
Is
find
he
him
a
to save my life.
receiver?
He's an offensive lineman. Looking at his snap counts. How many sacks this motherfucker giving up? I don't
Too
even
many.
know.
This
I
guy
don't know
got
what
Trevor
he's
killed
getting.
last year. Damn, you let
Yeah, I
your
don't-
quarterback get a busted knee. I mean, the Jaguars can't draft offensive players. Like defense, they were good at for a little bit when they had Saxonville, and I feel like they typically always go through a stretch with a good defense. But my God, some of the receivers and linemen this team takes and ETN has not panned out so far to the level that he should have, being a first round draft pick. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially for a guy that played with Trevor at Clemson. You would think that would be a pretty easy switch. No, not so much. Um, Outside of these last four picks, we have Miles Murphy for the Bengals. I think it remains to be seen on him where he'll be. Brian Breeze for the Saints. He's been pretty good for them. Nolan Smith, not much for the Eagles here. And Kansas City, they have Felix Inodike Uzoma, which
Great
I don't
name.
think he's I don't even think he's played, to be honest, so I can't call him a bust either. That's just 1 year removed. Now, we can look at the remaining rounds. Some players who have already stood out to this point. Any thoughts on the people that I mentioned, though? Like surprise picks, people who were drafted ahead of each other.
Mostly the receivers. I felt like the order should have been flipped, and Zay Flowers um should have gone first, as well as Jordan Addison there. And then it's a very weird quarterback draft, and I think most notably too, Will Levis not being called in the first round. That was definitely a shock to most
Yeah.
people. We were
Yeah.
sitting with a Tito's rep during this, and he kept being like, "Where's Will Levis? When he's gonna when is he gonna get drafted?" And everyone was wondering in the bar when he was gonna get drafted, and so was his girlfriend sitting with him. And then she left him, and when he started, she came back.
They always come back. Well, he got drafted 2 picks later, so he went into the second round. The Titans traded up for him. I don't know what to think of Will Levis to this point. I've seen flashes where he's got a cannon of an arm. He's mobile, like it's not bad, but he also has some plays that you're like, dude, what are you doing? That has been Will Levis's career so far. He's like the new Jameis, basically, the new Jameis of the NFL.
The new Jameis. Yeah. Overall, it was a draft that has some talent where it's been really good, but it still needs to take it to the next level. So once we start hitting year 3, year 4, it'll definitely be another good draft to revisit again. So I think it'll be interesting, but we have the potential to have some of the best players in this league and some of the worst players in this league all in the first round.
Yeah, and then some notable players that were drafted later. Right, we have the first 3 picks of the second round was Joey Porter Jr., who's been a hit for the Steelers. Will Levis, Sam Laporta, absolute monster, to have one of the best tight end rookie seasons ever. Um, Brian Branch also for the Lions. Lions had an amazing draft last year. All these guys panned out. Rashid Rice, he got drafted by the Chiefs in the second round as well. And Tank Dell went to the pretty good wide receiver draft so far. The Texans have Tank Dell that came in the third round. And then that's not really anything. Devon A-Chain in the third round. He's been a beast so far. And I think that's everyone else, it's kind of is remained to be seen. Puka Nacua was in this draft as well. So really good wide receiver draft to this point. Puka Nacua was basically a 6th-round pick. And he had the best rookie wide receiver season ever.
Yeah. Puka Nacua was special last year, especially having Matthew Stafford last year, who loves giving his number one receiver the most targets of anyone else in the NFL.
Absolutely. So that is our 2023. Looking back at it, where do you think Bryce Young is drafted?
Um, not.
Not
Looking
drafted.
back at it, if they saw what he saw now, maybe he's a fourth round pick at quarterback. Like maybe we can do something with him, but yeah, I'm not sure where he would be drafted.
I can say watching Bryce Young play, like I know him and Kyler are relatively similar in height, but Bryce Young looks so much smaller. He looks puny out there. He looks like he's like a Pop Warner player going out there. And I know Kyler looks short, don't get me wrong, but Kyler at least has like the build for it. Bryce Young looks like he's like 30 pounds when he's out there. Like any play could just be the end of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, no, he's pretty small out there, which is another thing too, especially when you have a bad offensive line. It's already hard to see over your offensive line. So if you can't escape into space that easily without the pocket collapsing, that's also going to be another issue for him. So it takes a certain type of team to be able to help him succeed.
Yeah. But I say what we've all been waiting for. Let's preview week 3 of the NFL. I'm going to pull up the betting lines for each game as well. First game of the week will be the Patriots and Jets game. But anything we should talk about before we hop into the games, or anything you want to mention?
No, I think I'm good to hop right into the games. I'm excited for this slate of games. We got some interesting games on here for sure. Excited to talk about every single team in the league because we pride ourselves about talking about every team. So you watch our show, we go through every single one of you. We don't forget you, even if we only talk about you for a minute or two. It's not just the Cowboys, it's not just the Chiefs. We include every single NFL franchise on the show because that's how much we love the NFL.
Damn right. Well, that being said, Thursday night football, we have Aaron Rodgers at home taking on the New England Patriots. As of right now, the betting odds is the Jets are favorited at -6. And as of right now, the money, we have 75% for the Patriots to cover the spread against the Jets. Are we surprised by these numbers so far?
I am surprised that the spread is 6 points in this game, honestly, because the Jets just played one hell of a road trip here. And now, so you're telling me you're going from California to Nashville on the road, and now your first home game after that stretch here is on a Thursday night. So not only do you get the brutal start the season with back-to-back weeks on the road, now your first game at home is you don't even get a full week to prepare there. And the Patriots are just coming down from New England to play the Jets. And I think the Patriots went to Cincinnati. It's week 1 Cincinnati, but they played them really well, going up a tough Cincinnati Bengals defense. And one thing that always still starts strong for the Bengals is that defense. That's what's keeping them in games. They were electric versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you go up against the Seattle Seahawks team that has actually really good weapons. You have DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker is looking really good this season. You also have Jackson Smith and Jigba there. And then you look at the Jets' weapons. Who do they have that even compares to those weapons? You have Brees Hall, who is good, and you have Garrett Wilson, who's really good. But overall, I think the Patriots defense, which was really good against the Bengals and Seahawks, and just the Patriots lore of them just always beating the Jets would lend itself to them covering a 6 point spread when both of their games have been one possession or overtime so far.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are going to win this game, I believe. I think just the way that I think the Jets are just the better team overall. But the Patriots have been very competitive in both of these games. Could have beaten the Seahawks. We could be seeing a future an alternate reality where the Patriots are 2-0 and are leading the division essentially. That being said, I do think that the more we go into the season, the more I think expectations begin to settle in, and I think that this Jets game, I think the Jets will win, but I will pick the Patriots to cover ultimately.
Yeah, I would pick the Patriots to cover as well. And I actually think oof, I have a feeling that the Patriots are going to go with a win. I know the Jets should win, but when I have that inkling in my gut telling me the right thing to do, I should listen to it because more often than not, that is right when it comes to NFL picks. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win this game because Patriots versus Jets, it's always a battle, especially Aaron Rodgers versus the Jets. He hasn't really had too much success versus them throughout his career, and this is a good Patriots defense. And the Jets just played a hell of a road trip there. So I think they're going to come out flat. And I think the Jets are also, if they make the playoffs, it's going to be a very similar season to that Minnesota Vikings team we saw lose to the Giants in the first round, where they have a negative point differential and still made the playoffs, where every single game they win is just going to be a grinded out one possession game. We have a bad offensive line as well in New York. Still haven't fixed that yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. The Patriots always play close with them. It'll be fun to watch. I'm excited to see that on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Then we go to the 1 o'clock slates, or for you, the 12 o'clock slates, and for me, the 10 o'clock slates. We
Amen.
start with the Buccaneers and the Broncos. This is in Raymond James Stadium, and the Bucks are favored at 6.5.
That's it? 6.5?
That's
Really? Only six and a
yeah,
half points for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, who Baker Mayfield, again, is top five in QBR so far. They just had a battle with the Detroit Lions and avenged that playoff loss. And you were talking about before the season how these playoff rematches usually go. And it's usually the team that lost that game has more to prove. They wanted this game more than the Lions, and you saw that. They went out there and did it. They had a hell of a first game as well, and Baker Mayfield played well in that first game. So I think it's going to be a great game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Bo Nix, have fun against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. I think Baker's going to have a field day. And will Bo Nix throw his first NFL touchdown? Or are we going to further go on the pace of 0 touchdowns and 36 picks for him? We will see.
yeah. We've talked about the Broncos. The Broncos are the worst top five teams according to the Brickyard, and the Buccaneers are not. Buccaneers, we know Baker Mayfield. We love Baker Mayfield. Playoff team last year, 6.5. I think I take the points there. I think the Bucks annihilate the Broncos. The Broncos, they score a max of 10 points, and I don't think that touchdown will be Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix will not score a touchdown. So we take the Bucks to win this game. We both agree. Now, a game I feel like we'll have some differences with. We have the Chargers going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Vegas can't decide. They got the Steelers at -1.5. Kind of a pick 'em game.
Yeah, the Steelers at 2.5 at
One and
home.
a half.
1.5. Uh, yeah, this game sucks because the Steelers' defense is good enough that I know it's going to keep them in it. And I saw the first game versus Atlanta, and that was a good Falcons offense that came alive versus the Philadelphia Eagles. They had good weapons, they're able to have success. However, I don't know, the Chargers are one of those teams I feel like they always give the Steelers trouble historically, and they always have. And they just won two back to back sluggish, grind them out games. And the Chargers have also been a lot better than I've thought they're going to be. But I'm going to go with my gut instinct here, and I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers just because I think defensively, this is going to be one of the best Pittsburgh Steelers teams we've seen in a while with what they did to Atlanta and Denver, and I just want to see the Chargers face this test. And then if they get over this hump and the offense looks really good, then I'm going to really start buying into what Jim Harbaugh does. But we talk about hurdles on this show and getting over the next tough team. If Justin Herbert gets through TJ Watt unscathed, Chargers might be heading to the playoffs and make some noise in the divisional round, even.
I think the Chargers are going to win this game. I've really liked what I've seen on their defense, mainly. They have the lowest points against of the season so far. I understood they faced the Panthers, but they also handled the Raiders as well with Gardner Minshew, who just put up 26 points against the Ravens. And on the offensive side of the ball, I feel like I've really liked what I've seen from J.K. Dobbins. I've really liked what I've seen from Gus the Bus. Lad McConkey's been a hit for them so far. I think the Chargers win this game. I think they have a better offense than the Steelers. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I mean, let's look at what they have the over under as. Over under at 36. I would honestly take the under. I think we're looking at a
Way lower.
17 to 10 sort of game. Um, but yeah, I think the Chargers are going to win this game.
Yeah, if I was picking score in this game, honestly, I would go like 12-9.
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a dogfight. Every Steelers game is. And the Chargers, the way the Chargers defense is played, along with the Steelers, I don't think there's going to be many points scored.
No, eye gouger of the week. But if the Chargers like offense looks really solid versus the Steelers team and they're moving the ball up and down the field, this is a team that might actually give the Chiefs problems finally this year.
Finally, we shall see. We have another eye gouger, so hold your breath. In Cleveland, we got the rapist taking on the dirty dime, Daniel Dimeless, New York Giants.
No.
The Browns at 6.5-point favorites, over under 38.5. This game's terrible. This game's actually like we just made fun of the Steelers and Chargers. Not even close. Giants and Browns is god awful. We have two bottom 5 teams according to the Brickyard facing off in what we call the Turd Bowl. Battle of the bad. Cleveland, their defense is really good. I've actually liked what I've seen from the Giants defense as well. But you also lost a game scoring 3 touchdowns, having the best Daniel Jones game in like a year, and you still lost. And then for Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, ever since the Cosby tapes came out for him, he's just been horrible. So this is going to be another. I think this game might be worse. I think they can still put points up. I don't know if I would touch the over-under, but I would say the Giants cover because I think both teams are going to score like 20 points, and it's going to be close.
Yeah, it could be close here. The Cleveland Browns did beat Daniel Jones with long hair. So I think they'll be able to do that again versus actually Daniel Jones. So I will take the Cleveland Browns begrudgingly to beat the Giants. Also, they have better coaching and weapons on offense, and their defense is equally as good, where their defense is still a force to be reckoned with. And the Giants last week played the Commanders. I mean, that's a division rival. They always play each other tough, and they're in very similar situations at this point, where I feel like the Cleveland Browns are still at least the same roster that made the playoffs last year, even if they have someone at quarterback who's not that great. But to start that game, you do have to give Deshaun Watson credit. He was pretty efficient. I mean, good completion percentage in that game. I mean, I guess if you're Cleveland, the only thing you can hope is that Diddy testifies against him.
Yeah. Well, it's great that he has a high completion rating when he's just checking it down to the running back and the tight end. Congratulations. I'm happy for him. That's great. But I do
It
think
can
this
work.
game will be close. I'll pick the Browns to win. I think I'd take Kevin Stefanski over Brian Daboll. And I think that Cleveland Browns defense over the Giants as well. So I do think the Browns prevail, but I'm not touching this game. If you're a
Yeah.
gambling man, I would not touch this game.
Yeah, the Giants are
Sounds like some,
inventing ways to lose still.
yeah, like they did last week. We have actually a really good game coming up, though. 1 o'clock slate. We have the at the Caesar Dome, New Orleans Saints, hottest team in the NFL, taking on the Eagles, who just got Kirk Cousined on primetime football. So Eagles, they are now 1-1. The Saints are the hottest team in football. Have put up 40 points plus in 3 straight games. What are your early thoughts?
That I'm sick of the Eagles already. I mean, how whiny and entitled can you be if you're the Philadelphia Eagles? Every time they lose a game, you never hear the end of it with this team. And then AJ Brown is off the field and Jalen Hurts looks lost out there. Every time he's like looking at the bench confused. You can tell him and Sirianni aren't on the same page right now. And if AJ Brown has an issue with his hamstring, it's going to be a long day for the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Eagles have Saquon, and they were pretty close with the Cowboys this year. And I think they were better than they were last year. But the Saints are currently still the hottest team in the NFL. And when the Saints are good, I mean, that is one of the toughest places to play is the Superdome in New Orleans. So
Yeah.
I will take the Saints to continue the momentum. They just went ahead and handled the Cowboys. Eagles are a pretty similar team, and without AJ Brown, it's an entirely different animal here. And the Eagles still look like that same pathetic team from last year and should be 0-2 if Jordan Love didn't pop his knee.
Yeah, it's very true. Eagles, you know how we've talked about this many times on the show when a team should have fired a head coach and they continue on the next year. We've talked about that potentially being the case with Mike McCarthy, but last year we saw it with Brandon Staley where you really should have fired him the year before. Well, I feel like this past year they probably should have fired Nick Sirianni because, your franchise quarterback hates him and they completely collapse at the end of the year. It feels like already there's just bad vibes in Philly. Like Saquon Barkley drops a pass that he never drops. They get they get Kirk Cousins to march down the field during a primetime game, which he historically has
Yes,
the worst record in primetime history. Like that happens
insane.
already. And the only game that you've won so far was in fucking Brazil. You haven't even won a game in the US yet. So I think the Saints are the hottest team in football, and the Eagles just have bad vibes. I'm picking the Saints.
Yeah, Saints. I mean, I want the Saints to be good this year. I want them to be the team they should have been last year. And they currently have the best offensive duo in the league on their team right now.
Rashid Shaheed is a beast. Let's
He's
be
a
honest.
monster. And you still have Olave there who looks pretty nice at times. He makes some catches where you're like, oh, whoa, okay.
And a tight end that not a lot of people talk about, Juwan Johnson. He's solid. He's like a
Jawan.
Jawan Johnson.
It's like an
He's
A+ name test right there.
he
Jawan
passes the name.
Johnson.
He passes the name test. Another good game. We have two hot teams. One of them I have as a Super Bowl team. In Minnesota, the Vikings with Sam Dangerous going on and facing CJ Stroud and the Texans. Texans are favorited at -2 on the road.
Yeah, it's time to stop the lies. Stop the nonsense right now with Sam Darnold. We get it. He went out there and beat the San Francisco 49ers, but newsflash, the Minnesota Vikings always go out there and beat the San Francisco 49ers. It's just one of those weird hexes in the NFL where this team always beats that team no matter how bad they are. And it's really been Justin Jefferson or bust. And the Vikings have been better than a lot of people thought they were, but this is kind of the Vikings team I was expecting to see this year when you have someone as talented as Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones and your head coach. But you're going up against the Houston Texans, who just took your best player away from you. And now you have Danielle Hunter, who's going to be motivated against his former team. Sam Darnold,
That's true.
it's not like Sam Darnold is that motivated to go up against Danielle Hunter. So he's going to be seeing the ghost of Danielle Hunter and the entire Texans defensive line in the backfield. Most importantly, Will Anderson Jr. and Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell coming to town. I mean, this Texans team's too good.
Yeah, I agree. Vikings are a good story, but have we not seen this story before when Sam Darnold lit it up in Carolina? They started off 3-0, and I don't think they've won 3 games since, probably. So, like,
No, they haven't.
Sam Darnold is the king of September. He's always been the king of September. So, pump the brakes. It's been 2 weeks. I hope he plays. I have no disrespect to Sam Darnold, but he's not beating the Texans. Texans are going to annihilate them. Um, then we go to the next game. In Tennessee, we have the Tennessee Titans, and they're taking on the Packers. Jordan Love practiced today, so he might actually be playing against the Titans. If not, Malik Willis, he won his first game. He scored his first NFL touchdown. Titans and Packers. You hear that? Where do you first swing? Vegas is saying Titans are favorites at -2.
Yeah, my first thought is close game, but the Packers will find a way to win. I mean, what a masterful coaching performance versus the Indianapolis Colts that Matt LaFleur had, keeping his team afloat without Jordan Love. And if it's one of those injuries where it's really not as bad as we thought it was, the Packers are going to be right there, still in contention. And Will Levis is also gonna keep the Titans in the game, but he's also gonna keep the Packers in this game. So I will take the Packers to win this game here. I think the vibes with Tennessee have been a little bit off, kind of getting the vibe that Brian Callahan is not a Will Levis fan. So I will take the Packers to win, but I think it'll be a one score game, similar to the Jets game and the Bears game for the Titans.
Yeah, I think so too. And no, Brian Callahan hates him. And honestly, if I was Brian Callahan, I would too. He's made like one of the dumbest plays each week. But that being said, I do think he deserves another chance. So I think this will be a good game. I do pick the Packers to win. If I had to guess a score, I'd say like 28-17. Um, then we go to Indy. Anthony Richardson taking on Caleb Williams in the Bears in Indianapolis. Colts are split at 1.5.
Oh, that's a tough one, to be honest. And I think the Colts struggled their first two games, and so has Caleb Williams. And it's going to be two struggling teams trying to find their footing. However, it is the second game of a road trip for the Bears. And I think the Colts just have more experience in this game. You have Jonathan Taylor. They have a little bit more chemistry overall, and Caleb Williams is still figuring it out. So I'm going to take the Indianapolis Colts in this game to beat the Bears at home. But I think this will be a close one. It's definitely a game where it's two teams in a similar start to the season, but that Colts and Texans game just gives me more to grab onto so far.
Yeah. Um, the Bears have been a hard team to put my finger on this season so far. I feel like the Titans game they probably should have lost, and this past game, I don't know if they should have pulled that out. But I think CJ Stroud had talked to Caleb Williams after the game, and he said in his press conference that really it was around week 3 or 4 that he started to get his footing. I think he looked better this past week than he did in week 1. So I think this is when we start to see Caleb Williams start to piece things together. I'm going to pick the Bears to win. I like their defense more. I think Caleb Williams starts to get his footing a little bit, and I do think the Bears prevail in a close game. I picked like a 24-21 score. We start to see flashes of Caleb Williams.
Yeah, yeah, this will definitely be a fun one, especially because the Bears' defense was really good versus the Texans, and I think this is going to be a battle. But I will take the Colts just because they have a much better running game with Jonathan Taylor there. But I think it'll be a fun matchup with Michael Pittman and DJ Moore trading 40, 50, 60-yard receptions back and forth. Maybe we'll get a Josh Down sighting too. We'll see.
That'd be sick. I'd be down for that. Then we have another stinker of the week. We have in Las Vegas, we got the mustache, Gardner Minshew, and we get to see the Red Rifle return from the shadows of Carolina. His first start in Carolina since the benching of Bryce Young, who we talked about earlier on the show. Um, we haven't seen him since last year. Andy Dalton, when he did play, their offense did look a little bit better. I think he'll be able to move the ball down the field a little bit more. But Raiders and Panthers, need we even go over this game?
I think we should, yeah, because Andy Dalton has played well historically versus the Raiders. It's been a team that he's been favorable against. So I think Andy Dalton may give the Panthers some life here. It could be a little bit closer than maybe the Panthers games have been in the past, especially when last season when he stepped in for Bryce Young. The Panthers did look a lot better with Andy Dalton, and it could be a situation where the Raiders are coming off a shocking win versus the Ravens, and it's an emotional upset. And they can compete. I mean, I'm just kidding. There's no way that the Panthers are actually going to come out and beat the Raiders. Definitely the Raiders in this game, and hopefully we see a breakout game for them offensively.
Here are my predictions of this game. Andy Dalton will score more points than Bryce Young scored in the last 2 weeks. However, what's more important? What ultimately decides the game? Who scores the most points? The Panthers can't score points. and their defense cannot help themselves from allowing points to score on them. So that's a really bad recipe for them. Panthers do not win this game. I don't think the Panthers will ever win a game this season, even with
Yeah.
Andy Dalton. I take Gardner Minshew to light them up. He looks like a Hall of Famer when he plays, and they just
Do you
annihilate them.
do you think there's anything to Andy Dalton being 4-0 versus the Raiders in his career?
Yeah, but he's 4-0 like with the Bengals and the Cowboys and teams that are competent. But with this, I don't know, man. I don't think it's about Andy Dalton not playing well against them. I think it has more to do with like who is the defense going to stop? They have no good linebackers, no good edge rushers, no good corner. Well, JC Horn's good, but their defense is atrocious. And I don't think they can stop the Raiders. The Raiders have Brock Bowers, they have Devontae Adams. I think that that's enough for them to just smoke them. I think we'll have a big Devontae and Brock Bowers game.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, it's a closer game. But we could also see the Raiders have a breakout offensive game, so we will see.
We shall see. Then we go to Seattle. We have the Seahawks taking on the Tua less led Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. Seahawks and Dolphins. Seahawks just pulled out a win in overtime against the Patriots. Right now, they are favored at 4.5.
Yeah, and I think that's fair in this game. They just went up against a tough Patriots defense, and so far the Dolphins defense has looked like Swiss cheese. I mean, if you're the Dolphins and you look back at week 1, you have to think to yourselves, how on earth did we let the Jaguars score 17 points? I mean, that's like giving up 31 points to the Bills. Oh, wait, you did give up 31 points to the Bills, and they ran right through you. And now the Seattle Seahawks went up against, I mean, the Broncos defense is probably mildly decent, I guess. They look solid versus the Seahawks and the Steelers, and they went up against the Patriots defense, which shut down the Bengals. So if we're going with like the college power ranking system on strength of schedule and who you've beat recently, I think the Seattle Seahawks will be able to move the ball here, and I think defensively they'll be able to do enough to slow down a two-less Dolphins team. Give me the Seahawks, and I think they cover the 4.5 points.
I agree. I take the Seahawks to cover. I don't trust Skylar Thompson leading the offense. I think it's going to be more heavily run for the Panthers. I mean, the Dolphins with Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill. They'll still put up points, but Seahawks, they have a better defense. As of now, their offense is better. I'll take the Seahawks to cover. Then we go to a game that I might actually be in the stands for, and that is Cardinals and Lions. In Arizona, in State Farm Stadium. Lions are road favorites at -3. I honestly don't care who wins this game. This is peak. I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. Cardinals have looked really good so far. We saw Maserati Marv start to get some targets this past game. He didn't have any targets in week 1. And the Lions, they just got off of a loss against the Bucks, but they've looked good as well. Early thoughts with the Lions as favorites currently.
Yeah. Introducing your early contender for game of the year. I mean, this could be Chiefs Rams quality entertainment here, where you have Maserati Marv, you have a Cardinals team that just gave up a ton of points to the Bills. I think this is easily my most anticipated game of the week. I'd say this game and Colts and Bears are probably my two most anticipated game for two different reasons, but I think offensively both of these teams will be able to put up points, but I think it'll come down to which team is going to want it more, which team's going to want to go out there and take a kneecap when it's all said and done, and I'll go with the Lions. I think they'll eventually come out on top to win this game, but because Kyler Murray will miss a wide open receiver in the end zone because he's not tall enough to see over his offensive line, but I do think it'll be a close game and it'll be fireworks all around.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fireworks. I don't see the Lions losing back-to-back games to start the season. I think they want to prove people wrong. Cardinals, I think, are an exciting team, but their defense has not done them any favors. Their defense looks like it's going to be pretty bad. You got to stop Laporta. You got to stop Amon-Ra. You got to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. And now we have Jameson Williams, who's played exceptional so far with this season, finally getting a full season under his belt. So I just don't think the Cardinals can stop the Lions offensively, where I feel like the Lions can disrupt, or maybe they can contain Marvin Harrison. But I think for that alone, I take the Lions to win. I would take the Lions. I won't touch the cover by any means, but I think the Lions do inevitably win this game.
Yeah. What was the spread again?
It was -3, so they have the Lions winning by a field goal.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a tight one. But if I'm taking the Lions to win, I could just take the points as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and then we have a battle. Staying in the NFC West, we have in SoFi Stadium, we have the Rams without Cooper Cup and without Puka Nacua. And they have the San Francisco 49ers facing off against them. San Francisco, who just lost to Minnesota. Will they rebound and beat the Rams down their number 1 and number 2 receiver?
Yeah, I think they do. I'm not enthusiastic about the San Francisco 49ers this year, but you have the case of Kyle Shanahan, regular season wise, has dominated Sean McVay throughout their career there. Sean McVay got the win when it mattered in the playoffs, but in the regular season, the San Francisco 49ers have given the Rams a ton of trouble, and you're telling me you're down Puka and Cooper Cup now? Are we going to magically spawn a fifth or sixth round draft pick that's going to be a transcendent, record shattering player? I just don't see that happening for the Rams this time, especially with them just getting bludgeoned by Marvin Harrison in the first round. So hoping it's a big day for Brandon Ayuk. But yeah, I would, even if George Kittle goes down this game, I'll still take the 49ers to win.
Yeah, I think the Rams are just down too many people. If they were full strength, I'd probably pick the Rams, but with what's going on with the Rams losing both of their receivers, I think it's going to be tough to put up points. You're going to need a big game from Kyron Williams. Matt Stafford didn't look great last game either. I'll take the 49ers to cover this game.
Yeah, and really the play the Vikings made against them was just Justin Jefferson being better than everyone. And I've been meaning to mention this quote when the reporter asked Justin Jefferson, "Are you studying Garrett Wilson to prepare for playing the 49ers?" And he's like, "Respectfully, Garrett Wilson ain't me."
He's right. And then last game before the primetime games, we have Dallas taking on the Ravens. Cowboys just got smoked by the Saints. The Ravens, they just lost to the Raiders. Both teams, Ravens are 0-2. The Cowboys are 1-1. Right now, the Ravens are favorited on the road against the Cowboys, although it's kind of a pick 'em game. Early thoughts, Ravens and Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys went out there and just got destroyed by the Saints. But the Ravens are desperate right now. They're 0-2, and now it's the battle in that division to not start 0-2 between them and the Bengals and kind of get back in contention this week. And you can start to catch up to the Steelers. So I think with that, and then Lamar Jackson has only lost to one NFC quarterback in his career. And I think him in Dallas, where Dallas is about the stars, but it's also becoming a New York Knicks style fashion where it's not necessarily the Cowboys that play their best in Jerry World. It's the other stars that come to Dallas that play their best in Jerry World. So I think Lamar Jackson will have his best game of the season so far in this game, and the Ravens will get their first win of the year. And he'll continue his hot streak against NFC quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think really the only person that Lamar Jackson lose to historically is Patrick Mahomes. I can't see the Ravens going to 0-3, especially in the current state of things. I think the Raiders game was close. They had a few opportunities that they lost out on. I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from the Cowboys. The running game doesn't exist. Who would have thought?
Oh, we
Um,
did.
oh,
Document right here. It says the Cowboys won't have a run game this year.
we did. We said it early on, especially when they didn't bring up pick Tony Pollard back up. So I think the Ravens, I would easily pick them to win. I think that they're going to take care of business. They'll contain the offense. They'll score good points. We'll have a big game from Lamar. And then we go to Sunday Night Football, back-to-back primetime games for none other than Jerk Thuggins. He will be hoisting
Sure,
the
Thuggins.
two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored at 3.5.
Ooh, this is a good one. Is this a game we looked at the beginning of the season? We're like, I don't know, but Kirk Cousins really kind of caught a rhythm versus the Philadelphia Eagles at the end of the game. They're coming off of a hot streak, and he really caught his footing in that one. And the Chiefs just beat the Ravens and the Bengals, which are probably two of the most interested teams that they aren't beating. So I could see the Chiefs getting bored a little bit in this game. Patrick Mahomes has been turning the ball over a lot. So I could see AJ Terrell making some big plays in this game and turning the momentum in the Falcons' favor. And my gut instinct says right now that you like that, and the Falcons are going to win this game. I'm going upset. I'm going Falcons.
You're crazy. You're
I'm
out of
not
your
crazy.
mind. I'm not I am not picking two-time defending champion Chiefs to lose against the Falcons. I'm not doing it. I don't care. I don't care if they don't have Pacheco. They're not going to do it. That's not going to happen. They're winning this game. No
You
doubt
can't
about it.
see like a situation where the Chiefs get bored in this game and the Falcons catch them by surprise because the way they've been able to use Bijan Robinson this year, Darius Slay coming up to Jake London after that, it's like, wow, man, what a great route you run that. You ran that route on me, and I was like, wow, what a great route.
I don't think the Chiefs are going to get bored. I don't. That's the part I can't. They're two-time defending champions of the dynasty of this league. They are not going to get bored of facing the Falcons. The Falcons are a fine team. They can't just be like falling asleep at the wheel with the Falcons. You're wild.
No, I think that's exactly the reasons why they would get bored. They'd be like, we are the two-time champions. We don't really care about the regular season as much as we should. I mean, we beat the Ravens, we beat the Bengals. We already have home field advantage now if we're tied with either of those teams for the 1 seed. And then they come out and show up versus the Bills, but it's like, it's the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. Like, how exciting is that really? And I think the Falcons could surprise them and be good. And Kirk Cousins is really going to show everyone on prime time that he's changed because let me tell you, seeing Kirk Cousins in number 18 is something else. I mean, number 8 was good, but number 18, it's like, wow, this guy really has completed his final ascension to top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Oh my God, you're insane. No, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be asleep. I don't think they're going to lose. I think that the Falcons, fine team, they're not beating the Chiefs. I
I'll
hope
bet
I
you on
wish them well.
I will
Okay,
bet you on this game.
we'll bet on it. Let's do it. We'll find
Okay.
something,
We'll figure it
whatever it
out
might
off
be.
air. Amazon
We'll
order
figure it out.
something. $10
We'll
of
figure it
Amazon.
out. All right. All right. Well, let's talk about one of the two Monday night games. One of the things in the earlier part of the season that I don't know why they do. We have Bills hoisting the Jaguars at 4:30 or 7:30 in East Coast times. Bills and Jags. I don't know about you. I'm never picking the Jaguars to win a game against a real team ever again. I just don't trust them. I think the Jaguars are frauds. I don't understand. No matter how good they play, they end up scoring 17 points. It's not going to happen. And I also like what I've seen from the Bills so far. I'll take Josh Allen over Trevor Lawrence any day. I like the Bills at -5. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is another weird game where you don't want to underestimate your opponent. And when the Jaguars played the Bills last time, it was in London, and it was kind of when the Jaguars actually still looked good last year. And you're like, okay, they can be a contender in the AFC. But now I just don't know with the Jaguars, and I think I'm on the same page where I just can't pick them to win games, especially on Monday Night Football. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good in prime time throughout his career as of yet, I believe Josh Allen is he lost to the Jets last year on Monday Night Football, but I think they'll be fine. And I think the Bills should win this game. I will go with the Jaguars to cover. I think this could be a closer game. Um, but just because of Josh Allen on Monday Night Football versus the Jets last year is still in my mind. But this is one game that should not be on Monday Night Football. And I hate that they have two games at the same time. It's like there's no red zone on, and no one really wants to watch two games at the same time on Monday night. Like, can we just put it at 4 o'clock or one? Like, we don't need it on Monday night, or put it on Friday. I would rather them just have a consistent Friday game.
Yeah, I would prefer the Friday game. I'm looking at the 1 o'clock. Like, why are they doing? I just hate when they do this. It makes no sense. It can't help viewership by any means. It's just a mess. And most of the time, the games suck. Which this game I think is a fine game, but next game is Bengals and Commanders. Bengals are favored at over a touchdown on Monday Night
Yeah,
Football. Like, what are we doing here? Why is this game even like? We couldn't put this at the 1 o'clock slate or the 4 o'clock slate. Why do we have two Monday night games? It doesn't make sense to me. Just another
yeah.
streaming service for us to pay for.
This game doesn't need to be highlighted. Like, why are we highlighting like Commanders and Bengals? Like Jaguars, Bills, okay. We didn't know the Jaguars would be this bad, or at least the people making the primetime schedule didn't think they would be this bad, even though we had a feeling that the Jaguars would be that bad. But this
We had a
game
hunch.
should have been buried in the 1 o'clock slate. This isn't a game that you need to be like, look at the NFL primetime slate. Don't you want to watch Commanders and Bengals? And it is the September Bengals, so it has the potential to be a close game. But it's the principle of going out of your way to put the Commanders on national television when you could have just had Jaguars and Bills. Let them earn that primetime spot. We don't need to put them on Monday Night Football unless it's against a division rival.
Nope. They have to have the Commanders there because I guess everybody wants to see Jaden Daniels, who I've liked what I've seen from Jaden Daniels, but all this is the only thing I can see this being like narrative wise is like the Bengals fall to 0-3 if they lose this game. I guess it's like, oh, will the Bengals just keep sinking like they do every fucking September? But other than that, there's nothing interesting about this game, especially if the Bengals win, which I think they will. I just, I don't know. Put Jaden Daniels against, I don't know, put him with Caleb against Caleb Williams, or put him with insert every other quarterback that was drafted this year. You know, it would make a lot more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it would
So
make a
yeah,
lot more sense.
so yeah, we both picked the Bengals to win this game. I don't see how the Bengals drop to 0-3, even though they've done it several times now. But I think they beat the Commanders. I think the Commanders they got lucky beating the Giants. They kicked a bunch of field goals. I think the Bengals can put up more than 7 field goals.
Yeah, they can definitely put up more than 18 points versus the Commanders.
Yeah, for sure. But that's all our games for week 3. We went through all of the games, talked about the spreads, where we would put it. I think my bets that I like the most are the Texans at -2 against the Vikings. I really like the Saints at -3, and I like the Chargers at 1.5. But bet with caution always with those games. Um, which games are you the most excited for?
These games that I'm the most excited for would definitely be. I think the game that we can learn the most from this week is going to be Bears and Colts. Those are two teams where the quarterback has kind of struggled a little bit in moments. So I'm excited to see that one. Obviously, the fan favorite this week is going to be Lions and Cardinals. I think that's going to be absolutely electric. And then I'm also really looking forward to Sunday Night Football with number 18 newly minted primetime Kirk. Yeah, you like that coming back on Monday Night Football, taking on the Chiefs. I think that game is going to be special, and I'm going to enjoy the Saints just absolutely annihilating the Cowboys.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch. I'm excited for it. Whole another week of football. We'll be here to recap the games next
Yeah.
Monday when we have two time games watching simultaneously. Um,
Yeah. And let's head into the weekend with some optimism, shall we? Because going
Absolutely.
into week 3, we need to know the top 5 teams according to the Brickyard. So we're going to go over the most accurate list. Let me pull it up here. I have the list, and we're going to go over the top 5 teams. Now, it's not going to be necessarily the top 5 teams or who I think is going to be the top 5 teams. This is who I think is the top 5 teams based on what I saw in week 2, heading into week 3. And starting off at number 5 is a team that a lot of people have had some mixed emotions on. They weren't sure where they would really land in their division. They thought there were 3 other really good teams in that division, also one with a new head coach. But both of the teams in the division that were supposed to take the top mantle have been injured. And while they did lose their first game because their quarterback missed a wide open receiver in the end zone, they completely obliterated their opponent in the second game. And Marvin Harrison Jr. had 4 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter for the Arizona Cardinals, and they dropped a whopping 40 points versus the LA Rams. So at number 5 this week, heading into week 3, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I think Murph from Impractical Jokers will bring that defense along. This is a team that was right there with the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, I thought they should have beat the Buffalo Bills in week 1 and should be 2-0 right now, winning 2 shootouts. And Kyler Murray is back and healthy. And oh, yeah, he looks better than Jalen Hurts because he is at this point in his career.
True.
And then at number 4 is a team that was in the playoffs last year. Not a lot of people thought they would be in the playoffs last year, even though they had just won a Super Bowl not so long ago. Their defensive head coach, who's been the one coaching that same defense that's still there, is heading the mantle, and they just went ahead and beat the team that knocked them out of the playoffs this week. Baker Mayfield is also top 5 in QBR this week. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 4. You came out there, took care of business, and then you get a tough, gritty win. A lot of people thought you would just go away this year. You're going to disappear, and no one would hear from you again. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are picking up where they left off last season and coming out with a tough, gritty win with Baker Mayfield evolving as a quarterback and at the helm this year. So at number 4, I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Something happening good in Florida. And at number 3, oh yeah, how could I forget the team that's dropped, I don't know, 91 points in the first 2 games? I mean, I feel like this earns you a spot on the top 5. I know what people said about the Saints last year. I know what people think about Derek Carr, but the Saints last week looked like they had the best offensive duo in the NFL with Alvin Kamara and Rashid Shaheed going absolutely ballistic. I mean, how can you not enjoy? Everyone's like, oh my God, the Cowboys, seeing all the Cowboys fans run into the stadiums to watch their team drop a whopping 19 points and give up over 40 points. Yes, 40 in an NFL game. And in a week where I felt like the first 2 weeks were lacking in scoring, the Saints were like, hold my beer. Let me raise the entire NFL average, similar to when you're at a job and you're so good that you literally raise your team's performance average. Yes, we've all been there. We've all been the excellent performer, and we've all been that excellent person on the show because you're watching the Brickyard right now. And that's just what we do. Well, that's what the Saints are doing right now, averaging the league's entire point average. So I had to get them a spot here at number 3. And at number 2, I mean, last year we heard a whisper and we said they might be better and make the playoffs this year and win the division. Be careful about the Jaguars. And the Houston Texans have now come out and won a shootout in their first game with the Indianapolis Colts. Some may say that was the most entertaining game of week 1, beating the Indianapolis Colts, a division rival, in back-to-back regular season games in the last week and the first week of the season this year. Then you come out against a tough Bears defense and you slow down Caleb Williams, hold them down on Sunday Night Football, and do enough to get the win, you have all the talent on defense. You have all the talent on offense to get it done. So at number 2, I like the Houston Texans. And then, need we say any more about the number 1 team? Because not only do they have Kermit the Frog at quarterback, who is the best quarterback in the league, 3-time Super Bowl champion, they're still the same Kansas City Chiefs. They are 2-0. They don't have Kadarius Toney on the team anymore. So until they tell us otherwise, the Kansas City Chiefs are the number 1 team in the National Football League this year.
You're goddamn right. The documents, they have been leaked. We now know the 5 best teams according to the Brickyard for week 3.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like those are the 5 best teams coming out of week 2. Like, do you have a problem with the Cardinals at 5? Like, they should have won. Like, if he just looked for Marvin Harrison in the end zone, they beat the Bills.
I think that if they didn't blow the lead against them either, they would have definitely won that game. I think the Cardinals have been excellent. I think the Saints definitely deserved a shout there with how great they've been. I like everybody else there, so hell yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, Bengals and Lions, got to claw your way back on there. Maybe we'll see a Raven sighting this week, but again, another exciting week of football coming, and I'm ready to watch all the action. Let us know your picks down below and your top 5 teams. But most importantly, when you're watching football on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, and come back to watch our stream on Monday and Wednesday, stay brick.
Stay brick.